and I was the marketeer. I'd never worked on food, I'd worked on personal care, but मैं भी झूठ बेच रहा था कि 2 हफ्ते में पिंपल चला जाएगा, 3 हफ्ते में गोरे हो जाओगे, all that stuff,
वो
right?
झूठ है.
सरासर. uh, so I realized the same thing is happening to my food, right? Star marks, and like the nuanced thing is marketers don't lie, right? They tell you half truths. They tell you legally safe half truths. Because at the back end, everyone largely is making the same stuff, but at the front end to the consumer, I have to tell you I'm very different.
Hi, welcome to Pitstop. I'm Albinder, founder of Blinkit. It's my pleasure today to be talking to Shashank. He's the founder of Whole Truth. They make energy bars and chocolates and a whole lot of other stuff which is clean and healthy for you. So let's get to it. One of the things I was very curious about was your personal journey to get to starting Whole
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
What is that?
So, like in hindsight, everything makes sense. So it feels like, you know, both personal and professional life were actually leading up to starting Whole Truth. उस टाइम पे नहीं समझ में आता, but in hindsight, so typical Indian middle class, born and brought up in Delhi, did टॉपर बच्चा था तो इंजीनियरिंग कर ली, इंजीनियरिंग करके समझा कि नहीं दिस वोंट वर्क आउट, सो क्विकली वेंट टू MBA, वेंट टू IIM लखनऊ विदाउट एनी वर्क एक्सपीरियंस, and then from there joined Unilever because I was clear कि finance नहीं होगा मुझसे. So joined Unilever, did that for 3 years. In 2012 the startup bug started hitting and I was like आता नहीं है startup कैसे करते हैं. And by the way I come from a family of सर्विस प्रोफेशनल्स, लाइक दूर दूर तक किसी ने बिजनेस नहीं करा लाइफ में. डैड 40 years ONGC, मॉम 30 years गवर्नमेंट स्कूल मैथ टीचर. सो तो मैं कहा मैं स्टार्टअप करूँगा, घर वालों का पागल हो गया है. सो जयदीप ऑफ रेबेल विच वॉज एट दैट टाइम फासोज, ही जस्ट रेज्ड हिज सीरीज A from Sequoia and he's a IIM Lucknow senior, so he put out a email saying hiring entrepreneurs in residence. मैं कहा ये सही है, किसी और के पैसे पे entrepreneurship सीखेंगे. So I went there, did that for 2 years. Got completely burnt out, like running restaurant operations, which is I have like deep respect for what you guys do, that like this is such a operationally heavy business. I got burnt out. I was like ये मेरे बस की नहीं है. I came back to Unilever, spent 5 years at Unilever again, in the second stint as a brand manager, and then quit to start the Whole Truth. So professionally had learned both how to build a brand to some extent and seen what the startup life looks like before I started up. Personally, used to be a super obese kid, 110 kgs throughout school life, and I'd gone to a boys' school, so there was no incentive to not be fat. The minute I entered engineering college, women happened, and like women didn't happen because and I thought it's because the way I look, because of the way I look. So I think all of this fat must go. So पागलपंती करी, like figured out the calorie deficit equation कि भाई दोनों तरफ से खींच दो, कि खाना बंद कर दो, भागना शुरू कर दो, हो जाएगा. हो गया, 9 महीने में 40 किलो लूज़ कर दिए. तो लगा नाउ आई एम लाइक माई थिन फ्रेंड्स, अब तो मैं खाता पीता हूँ जैसे खाता था. 3 साल में सारा वेट वापस आ गया. देखो कि कुछ गलती हो गई है, फिर से वही करते हैं. फिर से वही करा, अगेन लॉस्ट 30 kgs. Again in 3 years 30 kgs came back. Again lost 30 kgs. So by the time I was 26 I had done plus minus 30-40 kgs thrice. In the third cycle I was like, okay, something's going wrong. You know, I might be daft but I'm not that daft कि मतलब मेरे से 3 बारी सेम गलती हो रही है. That's when I started researching about food and fitness. And I started writing a blog, and by this time I was back at Unilever, so this was my weekend hustle. Saturday Sunday को बैठ के blog लिखता था. Wrote it for 2.5 years on the trot. Blog was called Fitshit, and that started getting a lot of traction. And these were like 1,500, 2,000 word long form, deeply researched articles, not any clickbait, yeah, photo and all of that stuff. So that, to be honest, was when it all started making sense. And like trivia is like the company's called Fitshit Health Solutions. It's ode to the blog. Because that's when I realized that ये जो मेरी personal journey है ये सिर्फ मेरी नहीं है. A lot of people are going through the same struggle of they think they are eating healthy, and at some point of time, either by seeing some documentary or failing to reach their goals, or some friend tells them, they realize that they are not. Then they realize, oh, they've been lied to. But we are all busy in our lives, right? We don't have the time to figure out how we are being lied to. And I was the marketeer. I'd never worked on food, I'd worked on personal care. But मैं भी झूठ बेच रहा था कि 2 हफ्ते में पिंपल चला जाएगा, 3 हफ्ते में गोरे हो जाओगे, all that stuff,
वो
right?
झूठ है.
सरासर. So I realized the same thing is happening to my food, right? Star marks, and like the nuanced thing is marketers don't lie, right? They tell you half truths. They tell you legally safe half truths. Because at the back end, everyone largely is making the same stuff, but at the front end to the consumer, I have to tell you I'm very different. So how will I do it? I will, mount some study on 12 Indonesian women in 2012 under standard temperature pressure, some shit, right? And I'll be like, ये cream लगाने से देखो ये लोग 2 हफ्ते में गोरे हो गए. Which is fine on personal care, 2 हफ्ते नहीं 8 हफ्ते में गोरे हो जाओगे, कोई बात नहीं. But on food, when you are telling me कि तुम ये वाला जूस पी लो, कोलास पीनी बंद कर दो, हमने कहा ओके जूस हेल्दी होता है, बट जूस में भी उतनी चीनी है जितनी कोला में है. तुम सुबह पराठे मत खाया करो, आई एम ए नॉर्थ इंडियन, पराठे मत खाया करो, तुम कॉर्नफ्लेक खाया करो. कॉर्नफ्लेक में चीनी होती है, मेरे घर के पराठों में एटलीस्ट चीनी तो नहीं होती थी. सो दिस द पर्सनल जर्नी टॉट मी दैट आई हेट बीइंग लाइड टू, एंड आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ अस, लाइक कोई हमें बना जाता है तो हमें बहुत बुरा लगता है, राइट? लाइक सो दैट, and I realized that that is not just happening to me, it's happening to a lot of people who are reading the blog and commenting and asking about it. And I have no reason not to become part of the solution now, because I'm so passionate about this. I know marketing and building a brand better than the average person because I've spent some time there. And hopefully now that the ecosystem has evolved so much, starting up doesn't mean, you can't earn a livelihood. So when all of these came together is when the startup happened.
Yes. But what is the journey of actually building a brand which stands for authenticity and which stands for fitness in a market like India? Like, what are the nuances or the surprises that you did not expect when you were starting this off?
Surprises of two kinds happened. One was a positive surprise, that the inkling of which I had gotten from Fitshit, that actually for the top 1%, these are folks who are, you and I, we happen to have been born in or be living in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, but our thoughts, our experiences, our exposure, the content we see is the same as a London, San Francisco sort of guy, right? So this top 1% took to the brand like the kids to a cake, right? They just ran towards the brand. That's why I think like the brand took off in a way that I didn't expect, at the speed that I didn't expect. So that was a positive surprise. As we are now transitioning beyond that audience, the age-old thing that marketeers have always known and learned in the big companies, that the next set of consumers is not that evolved. You need to simplify messages for them. It can't be that you keep doing the level of detailed messaging you did and assume that the consumer will spend the time to understand it. That's beginning to happen. A, and B, price as a barrier is beginning to show up, right? That people might understand and love your story, but beyond a certain price, they just can't, value it in money. They value it in thought. So the second one was expected. We'll find out whether we surprise ourselves on how good or bad we are at now translating this slightly evolved message into a simpler version, which can reach them also.
Got it. But in terms of the actual execution that you had to go through, so you had the blog, which I'm sure was the starting point for you to be able to talk about the products that you were making to a certain audience. But how did you sort of go about scaling it up first, post the blog?
Got it.
That how were you getting the customers? What are the channels that you were going for? And sort of how is it different now as you're going more beyond the top 1% and moving towards the rest of India.
Yeah.
So how do you think that is evolving for you?
So first of all, never use the blog to push the product.
Okay.
That I've always been very clear about. That I think the way to build a authentic brand is actually to not push sales. And from day one, hence our so Instagram and YouTube, largely Instagram was the acquisition channel early on, and content on Instagram. And if you see our content, we rarely talk about our product.
Got it.
We'll be talking about brown bread versus white bread, because that's what impacts the consumer's life. कि कुछ फर्क होता है इन दोनों में, और brown eggs versus white eggs, और which oil to use. कोई कहता है olive oil करो, कोई कहता है mustard oil करो, like which oil to use, right? So that's the content we started doing on the brand's Insta page also. Nothing to do with the products, but got immense traffic. Like we got to like 100K in like 7-8 months in terms of followers, etc. Purely because we were not, always saying whole truth khareed lo.
Got it.
Right. And that's on the content side. That's what we continue to do. So we very recently launched. We fundamentally believe that health journalism is a part of journalism that's been completely abdicated by journalists. All you get is like 6 ways to get 8-pack abs, Deepika Padukone's workout, like makes no sense to anyone कि मैं क्या करूँ इसका. But it's all the clickbait that gets them the traffic, that gets them the ads and stuff, right? So we started a health newsletter which is written by, like edited by a Washington Post journalist, written by the top health and fitness writers who are not money motivated. वो अपना काम करते हैं, पैसा कमाते हैं. So that content side continues. That's what I think has built and continues to build the brand with the top 1-2%. Going beyond that and now coming to a sales channel, what was the layering of sales channels on top? We started as pure D2C. Because I was very clear that I'm not just selling a product, I'm selling a story. And I want you to discover my product in the context of that story, where I can do that storytelling. Doesn't matter even if sales are low. पहले मैं कहानी बताऊंगा, फिर बेचूंगा. Pure DTC for year one, only website. Then opened up marketplaces like Amazon, खोला उसके बाद Flipkart खोला, etc. Quick commerce hadn't happened at that time. And then very recently, now that quick commerce is coming to the space, that's become like within a year, it's become the largest channel for us. And we've started doing offline retail also, because we've always been clear that in India, you're not scaling a food brand without going omni-channel.
Right.
We don't judge the consumer on where she shops, like wherever you want to shop.
Yeah.
My job is, as easy as it is for you to reach out and grab a packet of junk, it should be that easy and that clear that usi ke saath mein there's a 100% clean label option of that very food. And that's why we are a multi-category brand, right? Our philosophy is clear कि हम जिस भी category में हमें लगता है the incumbents are selling half truths and we can create a product that lives up to the whole truth philosophy, we will enter that category, right? So currently we're in 4 categories. We intend to be in many more, and distribute far wide across channels, so that the ability to reach out for a 100% clean label option is as easy as it is for the other. But that's been the sequencing of channels.
Nice. And you guys have to run like a lot of, R&D to be able to come up with these products across different categories, which are actually clean and possible to make.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So another very tough decision which we took from day one was we'll do our own production, own R&D, own production. And ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारे को मन नहीं था किसी और से करवाने का, because food production is daunting, right? Like it is scary. मतलब बहुत डर लगता है कुछ भी हो जाएगा, etc. Again, unlike personal care, वहाँ पे कुछ हो जाएगा तो किसी को कुछ rash हो जाएगा, ऐसा यहाँ पे is like, so it's very scary. But तो in the beginning we went to third party manufacturers कि बना दो हम रेसिपी, प्रोटीन बार की रेसिपी. मैं नौकरी छोड़ने से पहले 1 साल से मैं काम कर रहा था घर पे with रचना who heads, who's our head of product. तो वो रेसिपी लेके गए हम मैन्युफैक्चरर्स के बाद कि आप बना दो. तो हमारी बार, इफ़ यू ट्राइड, इट्स वेरी क्रम्बली, इट ब्रेक्स, राइट? बिकॉज उसमें नहीं है कुछ प्रेजर्वेटिव नहीं है, बाइंडर नहीं है, शुगरी लिक्विड नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है उसको जगड़ के रखने के लिए. सो तो हंस दिए हमारे मुंह पे कि आप पागल हो, ये सब तो ये मेरी मशीन में जाएगा नहीं. और आप यू आर नो वन, सो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज माई मशीन टू फिट योर प्रोडक्ट. यू चेंज योर प्रोडक्ट टू फिट माई मशीन.
Got it.
Met two people, we realized, shit, this is what we're trying to solve. Because, as I said, the marketeers are not bad people, right? They don't get up in the morning saying, "Chalo दुनिया की मारते हैं." It's if 90% of products are being made by the same folks in the same machines in the same way, but to the consumer you have to say, "Oh, my product is far different from your product." Then someone has to like deviate from the truth, right? So. We can't, if we are trying to solve the food industry, we can't go to the food industry and tell them help us solve you. So we'll have to do the production ourselves, figure out the R&D muscle, build it in house, and it's tough because I operate on a lower shelf life than my competition by definition. All the answers that we have to figure out are answers we have to figure out independently. आप किसी फूड टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट के पास जाओ, बोलो प्रिजर्वेशन की फाइट आ रही है, she'll recommend a chemical. बाइंडिंग की फाइट आ रही है, here's another chemical. Sweetness की फाइट आ रही है, here's another chemical. We can't use science to solve any of our problems, so we have to do trial and error. तो अगर आप हमारी शुरू की, जब मैं पहली बार बना रहा था, उस टाइम में मेरी कॉपी पे जो हमारे नोट्स होते थे, लाइक एक बादाम ज़्यादा डाल, एक बादाम कम डाल, एक डेट ज़्यादा डाल, एक डेट कम डाल, लाइक दिस इज द प्रोसेस विद विच वी गॉट देयर. बट ओवर टाइम वी लर्नड, एंड आई होप दैट्स द मोट, we learned how to work with natural ingredients, right? We learned process में बहुत गेम है. At what part of the process do I introduce the fiber giving ingredient which is dates into the process? How do I remove moisture entirely from the recipe, because for bacteria to grow they need energy and water. If one of those two I pull out of the equation, how can I increase shelf life at least to a respectable level that I can have a business around it? How do I use ingredients which are inherently very high shelf life? So we use dry fruits, dates, वो साल डेढ़ साल वैसे भी चलते हैं, right? So they're inherently very high shelf life, so the resultant product will have a higher shelf life. How do I figure out packaging? Our bar का packaging is tough to open. Many people have that issue कि बड़े मुश्किल से खुलती है, because we use a much thicker substrate which has a much higher barrier of air pollution, bacteria, everything. So all of these things that's the muscle we're building over time. It's bloody tough. It's super tough. The R&D process can take anywhere between 3 months to 18 months. So हमने अभी चॉकलेट्स लॉन्च करी, 18 महीने से काम कर रहे थे, बिकॉज यू लाइक हम डेट्स से चॉकलेट बनाएंगे. फिर से सब लोग हंसे कि तुम पागल हो, डेट्स इतने फाइब्रस होते हैं और चॉकलेट इतनी स्मूथ चीज़ होती है, बिना डेकेडेंस स्मूथनेस के नहीं बनती, तो तुम डेट तो बन ही नहीं सकती, कोई चांस ही नहीं है. लगे 18 महीने, बट अब बन गई है.
I enjoyed it, by the way. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And it made me feel less guilty about having chocolate in general.
Yeah.
Although I would recommend if you can come out with like a 99% or 90% dark chocolate.
We can easily make it. हमारा conundrum हमेशा ये रहता है कि that 1% or beyond 1%. Currently, to be honest, that's the biggest conundrum. Who are we innovating for?
Got it.
Is it the top 1 or 2% who wants the 99?
Yeah.
Or is it 98% of the country who wants milk chocolate, who wants, the sweet wala chocolate? And it's very clear that the measurement of success is impact. And if you're going for impact, then you solve for the 98, right? But that means that the top 1 or 2 will start getting a little not antagonized, but like move away from you ki, this is no longer for me. So that's like the conundrum. We don't know the answer.
But that's a very interesting conundrum, like I'm sure, because I know that I like really dark chocolate.
Yeah.
But I was in a chocolate factory recently, and also told that this is the lowest selling one. And then you have
for sure. Aap, like I can guarantee that in this group, whatever the stuff that we really like, all the experiences, मेरे को hazelnut वाली chocolate खानी है, etc. Almost guaranteed that that's inversely correlated with what sells in the rest of the country. right? So that's a tough one, and saying that the answer is dono kar lo is a lazy answer, right? Because there's a ton of complexity, and you're carrying SKUs which are doing thoda sale, but and especially if you're doing your own production.
Right.
So yeah, that's I think the key challenge right now, to figure out कि अब हम आगे किसके लिए innovate कर रहे हैं.
But you are going towards more of the country, right? You're not.
I am actually, to be honest, keeping 3 options open and exploring.
Got
I
it.
don't know answer कहाँ से निकलेगा. One is take one category which is a large category, say like chocolates, and go deep in the country. क्योंकि मेरी बाकी कैटेगरीज तो हैं ही इतनी छोटी, प्रोटीन बार कैटेगरी ही डीप नहीं है, तो मैं कहाँ से डीप जाऊँगा. Second option is stick to the top 2-3%, but go wide. Get share of wallet. These are people who already love you. These are people who get your concept, get your brand, love your brand. Just go and replace every bad thing in their pantry with 100% clean thing. Third option is protein bar alone. Very small market in India, insanely massive market globally. And we know we have a world-beating product there, and that's not like a biased founder love answer. We know it through a decent amount of work that this product is market-beating across Western world also. Go international, go where the market is. So, तीनों options हैं. It's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem to solve. So we are mounting experiments across all 3 to see which one is the current path of least resistance, and both from a term of path of least resistance and organizationally what speaks most to us, because now that we are 3-4 years old, we do seem to have some DNA कि हम कौन लोग हैं.
Got it.
So I think in the next 1 year we'll hopefully find out that answer and double down on that कि इधर जाते हैं.
So, like sort of going deeper into the country, you were earlier talking about, let's say, chocolates only. If you go deep, you're still sticking to the brand truth, which is clean products,
Yeah.
right? How is the messaging changing? You mentioned that you could have a more nuanced and complex message for, the people who are actually seeking the product.
Yeah.
But the people to who you're marketing the product now, right? How are you thinking through that? How should that message change?
That's a evolving answer, but I'll tell you the first inklings of it that we have. So for the evolved top 2% audience, the hard-hitting message of चीनी वाली चॉकलेट मत खाओ, बिना चीनी वाली चॉकलेट खाओ worked.
Got it.
Right? They were very clear कि fuck, just tell them that तुम्हारी चॉकलेट में 50% चीनी है, तो उसको छोड़ दो और ये खाओ. Worked with them because more rational thought process, more evolved, etc. We are realizing actually for the large part of the country, telling them chocolate में चीनी नहीं है as the first message is many a times a downer, because for them it feels that, oh, my indulgence then will not be tasty, because no sugar is a cue to not tasty. So leading with no sugar in chocolate is a downer for them. Then we ask them, लेकिन आप खाते हो? And if they have it, they love it. And the problem to solve is one of trial, right? We know that the product is great, so repeats will happen. Problem to solve is of trial. So barrier to trial क्या है? Then we ask them कि आप खाते हो तो बड़ी अच्छी लगती है आपको चॉकलेट, बट हमने शुरू में बोला कि नो एड शुगर है तो आपको अच्छी नहीं लगी. They're like, हाँ आप ये बताओ ना इसमें डेट्स हैं. So then we realized कि we should lead with the positive message that this is a chocolate which is sweetened with dates, or it has quinoa in it, or it has millets in it, it has XYZ in it. Tell me the positive message first, and later on once I discover अच्छा इसमें चीनी नहीं है, but after eating it'll deliver an additional wow which will lock me in for later on. But don't lead with the negative, lead with the positive.
Very interesting. Do you think you'll be able to like just market it without actually even mentioning कि इसमें चीनी नहीं है?
I think we'll try for sure. I don't know because now we are entering, both things change, right? So consumer is changing, the way to reach the consumer is changing. This consumer is no longer reading content on my Instagram. I will have to make a 20-second ad and show it to them somewhere, as a YouTube pre-roll or some such.
Got it.
So what the medium allows is also shrinking. So I have to be focused on one message.
Got it.
It can't be dono karte. So So, which is why before we started, I was telling you we're mounting experiments, right? You reach a point where there are 2-3 रास्ते जा रहे हैं और सारे ठीक लग रहे हैं, पता नहीं क्या आएगा. Experiment and find out. So in a micro market we'll run this message, in a micro market we'll run that message, and see. But it has to be one. It can't be two.
So with a product which clearly has a mission attached to it, which is sort of making healthier food or healthier snacking for folks, how do you think this translates to the culture and the people in the organization, and sort of talk a little bit about how you went about building that?
I firmly believe that actually the only moat in life is culture. Everything else is a derivative, right? So, and my thinking about people has been, just like all of us, formed by my alma maters, so HUL and FASOS, Rebel, both of whom leaned towards ownership / intent over skill. So that's how I've hired. So my top team, like I have 11 people who report into me, no layers, so total 3 layers including me, my team, their team, that's it. All 11 of them, apart from Rachna who heads production and the finance guy, are entrepreneurs in residence. Generalists who are doing jobs that they didn't do in their past life, but had the intent to do, to join this mission and affect this change in the world. Because I firmly believe कि हम टेस्ला या SpaceX नहीं बना रहे, कोई हमें ऐसा PhD नहीं चाहिए कि कोई मतलब बैटरी लिथियम आयन बैटरी की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है 1 साल लगा के, राइट? लाइक आवर प्रॉब्लम्स आर imminently solvable, but there are a lot of them, and every day I need people who come in with intent and ownership कि ये करेंगे. So hired the top brass purely on intent over skill. Believed that skill can be taught. So I think that has shaped our culture immensely, because it's a culture of humility. No one here is मुझे आता है मैं बताता हूँ, किसी को नहीं आता. तो सब एवरीवन इज लाइक भाई बता दे प्लीज़ कैसे करते हैं, तू कर लेगा तो तू कर ले, कोई बात नहीं. बट so heavy learning culture, and that also meant that by definition these are young folks. Like I'm 37, I'm by far the oldest guy in the company. My team is on average 30, their team is on average 23, 24. So that's led to I think a fairly strong intent driven learning culture. And the second one, I didn't know this would be the benefit, but ब्रांड का नाम होल ट्रूथ रखने का सबसे बड़ा बेनिफिट कल्चर पे है कि we waste zero energy talking about any deviation from mission, क्योंकि we've announced it on the bloody pack to consumers from day one every time, right? So कितनी फाइट होती है लोगों को, हमारे रिटर्न्स हायर होते हैं, हमारा माल रास्ते में टूट जाता है, चॉकलेट मेल्ट कर जाती है, ऑल ऑफ दैट स्टफ, बट नो वन एवर इवन क्वेश्चंस कि इसमें थोड़ा सा 2 बूंद ये प्रिजर्वेटिव डाल देंगे ना तो लाइफ सॉल्व हो जाएगी. एवरीवन नोज इट, ये लिटरली 2 ड्रॉप इस चीज़ की डाल देंगे तो हमारी 10 प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएंगी. बट दैट क्वेश्चन नेवर, लाइक नो वन, लाइक इट्स वेरी, लाइक इट्स नॉट इवन अ क्वेश्चन दैट यू कैन रेज दैट, क्योंकि हमारा नाम होल ट्रूथ है, हमने सब कुछ सामने लिखना है, तो कैसे कर लोगे? सो आई थिंक दैट वाज द, आई डिडंट रियलाइज दैट दिस विल हैपन, बट या.
That's pretty cool actually. And like, how's the sort of health focus inside the company, given that everybody's on this mission?
I think that's somewhere that I failed. The first 2-3 years of starting up, me, everyone, we've just given all our life to it. I think only now we are realizing कि इस चक्कर में हम बड़े सारों ने अपनी हेल्थ, अपनी खुद की हेल्थ को शॉर्ट चेंज किया है ये करने में. So now we are, I know it sounds funny and stupid कि तुम हेल्थ फूड कंपनी चलाते हो और तुम लोग हेल्दी नहीं हो, but that's the truth कि we've given so much to it that we kept ourselves second. I think now we are focusing back on changing that. And I don't know, मतलब many people ask me कि in hindsight तू ये बदलता, कुछ और करता. Like शुरू में this is the first time I'm starting up, right? So all sorts of theories were thrown at me. Some very well-meaning folks told me you should only hire people who are very fitness oriented.
Yeah.
Sounded like a great idea, but to be honest, मतलब मेरी पूरी टीम में सबसे ज़्यादा हेल्थ ओरिएंटेड मैं और एक और बंदा होंगे, बाकी सारे तो नहीं है, और फिर भी कंपनी ठीक ठाक कर रही है. सो आई एम लाइक वो एडवाइस गलत थी या. एंड देन आई रियलाइज कि you know, the mission that we are on is for actually normal people, right? Who doesn't want to be healthy? Like, find me one person who says नहीं मेरे को तो नहीं होना healthy, right? Everyone wants to be a little healthier than they were yesterday, right? So actually the bunch that I am working with is the right consumer. It's not the guy who's already going to the gym and who's already, you know, on the fitness path. But it's also true that, you know, starting up, and I don't need to say this to you, I'm sure you know, पागलपन तो होता ही है, like it is
What are you talking about?
so वो पागलपन वाले 3-4 साल की सर्वाइवल है, करना है ये वो में हमने अपनी खुद की हेल्थ को थोड़ा शॉर्ट चेंज किया.
Yeah, I hope you turn that around.
Yes, this year we will.
I want to pick your brain on, you've sort of seen the rise of quick commerce, right? And I think the kind of categories that your products are in,
Yeah.
over there especially quick commerce has worked really, really well,
Yeah.
right? When you look at it as a brand and when you look at quick commerce and the interface of your brand, sort of, what are your thoughts? Like, I just want to get some knowledge on what it means for you and how do you guys think about, okay, this is another channel coming, there's an Amazon and there's a Flipkart and there's offline.
Yeah.
How do you view quick commerce and how do you see the future panning out for this?
So I think there is absolutely no doubt in my head that this is the first large breakthrough innovation in the online world that's happened for packaged food. Food people want here and now, right? Like that's why 95% of the category sits in offline. That's why globally, even the most evolved e-commerce markets, percentage of food market on e-com is usually 50-60% of percentage of personal care or apparel or jewelry or any of those, right? So food is inherently मुझे अभी चाहिए. And like we know it, right? मेरे बिस्किट खत्म हो गया, you'll just like go downstairs or call up the kirana store downstairs and be like बिस्किट भेज दो. मैं ये थोड़ी Amazon से ऑर्डर करूँगा 3 दिन बाद आएगा, वेबसाइट से ऑर्डर करूँगा 4 दिन के बाद आएगा, तब तक बिस्किट नहीं खाऊंगा, right? So I think packaged food के लिए तो this is the by far the biggest innovation that has happened, and it's playing out in numbers already. The largest channel for us, the maximum focus internally is on quick commerce. My own behavior has changed, right? Like I don't order off my own website. I like because मेरे को 2 पीस चाहिए. My wife taunts me कि तुम हमारे से ऑर्डर करती हो तो हम कहते हैं हम नेक्स्ट डे डिलीवरी करते हैं, यहाँ पे 10 मिनट में आ जाता है, right? So super duper bullish on the channel. I think the other thing it's done for young brands like us is it's kind of democratized access to consumers, because this 100-year-old moat of physical distribution that big companies have been sitting on. I know moats are good things for companies, but sometimes they're bad things for consumers, right? Like it's super. A, we are not going to scale without becoming a large physical distribution company, no matter how big quick commerce becomes, right? B, it is not going to be easy. It's going to be a long journey. That's a physical distribution business, takes time.
Yeah.
Quick commerce has come in as a beautiful in between, which this set of consumers would have taken me another 4 years to reach, which I am reaching suddenly, directly, immediately. Right? And I have a strong hypothesis that in a short time, areas where my quick commerce sales are high will be areas where my offline sales will also be high.
Right.
That this will be the demand generation in that pin code, in that lat long, in that area for nearby stores, because consumers shop omni-channel. Consumers डिपेंडिंग ऑन शॉपिंग मशीन हर जगह से खरीदेंगे उनको जहाँ से खरीदना है, राइट, लाइक जहाँ से मैं भी खरीदता हूँ. सो आई थिंक इट्स अ पॉजिटिव सम गेम, वर्क्स फॉर impulse categories and food tremendously well. I also love it because I think brands which will win on quick commerce are brands which will build brands, not performance marketing, not some hack, not some मैंने कुछ keyword search crack कर लिया, कुछ कर लिया. These, I believe, quick commerce will be a fair reflection of consumer demand, and hence the incentive to build the brand in the consumer's head will again go back, rather than building the brand through price as a lever or through XYZ as a lever. Build the brand, consumer automatically has now access to buy it from wherever she wants to buy it, and this is one great channel from where she can buy it.
That's so cool, actually. I never thought about, the second and third point, that one, we will end up being the intermediate layer. And of course, makes total sense, right? You build customer love, you build customer trials, and obviously you build distribution in those areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all of this makes ton of sense. Thank you, Shank. I really enjoyed the conversation, man.
Thank you so
and
much.
I learned so much. I had no idea your journey was so interesting.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, pleasure. Thank you so much.